Yeah, g'day, Bush Camping Tools here. Well, often I'm asked this question, what's better to take out in the bush here or on hikes, etc. Is it better to take out a small hatchet and a small knife, or say a medium-sized hatchet about that long and maybe a medium-sized, this is a small knife like this? Or is it better, in fact, to carry, let's have a look here, a machete. Let's have a look at this. Here's a machete. Here you see this is a big machete, not huge, but and I've used this machete all around in here. So is it better to take a machete and no hatchet? Let me put this away. Let's have a look at the options here, and then I'll discuss what I think, my opinion is. Is it better to don't take out a hatchet at all, take out a really whopping great big knife like this. This is a huge knife. Take out a big knife like that, okay? Or is it better to take out, here's another big knife. This is a nice big knife here too. Got it in a pouch because this way I can transport it easily. It's a bit low key, so is it better to take out a knife like this? This is a big knife too, a damn big knife as well, and no hatchet or axe. We'll just clip that back up there and put this down. Or is it better to take out a smaller knife and a bigger knife? This is a smaller knife here. It's not exactly too small, but there you go, like that. So let me give you my take on all of this. Right, well first I'm going to talk about the machete, because that's the biggest knife as such I've got out here. And I'm going to tell you why I think if you're roaming around in the bush, now we're in Australia here, right? So I'm just going to clarify that. I do reviews all over the planet, from, montane forests to the jungles in Australia. You see me sometimes working with snow in the background, a little bit rarer there, but certainly across the northern hemisphere and in the tropics as well. Tropics both sides of the equator. Now I'm going to say now, because we're in the tropics now, a machete is a key tool to have with you. There are many, let's have a look over here. There are many things that a machete is good for in this kind of environment. Here's a palm frond, okay? These things are really fibrous, and yes, you can chop them with a knife, but it's a lot better if you chop them with a machete, because you've got to swing. These things are designed specifically for swinging, and you can chop these things off, and here's, here we go. You see that there? It's blunt because it's up my head, but you have no chance of chopping that with a knife, a small knife, because it doesn't have the right momentum or swinging. Now, some knives are okay for, I've just got to be careful here. Some knives are okay for swinging. They've got a bit of a good geometry for it, but nothing will beat the right tool for the job, and that is, as you can see here, a machete. Of course, in skilled hands, you can exactly feed yourself with a large machete and maybe a smaller knife, even smaller than this one here, like that, a small blade like that, or any one of the smaller ones there. So that depends on where you are, but I'd say certainly in the tropics, a machete is a good choice. Let's move on. Right, so while we're talking about big knives, such as the machete, let's talk about the hatchet situation. If I had a hatchet with me now, which is essentially a big lump of metal on the end of a stick, a big stick, a cut down axe, if you like, it doesn't matter what you want to call it, that's a hatchet, pretty much general definition. Excluding all these modern things with carbon fiber handles, etc., etc. You swing a big lump of steel on the end of a stick or something like this, it's just going to be deflected off probably. It's too heavy, you might overbalance with the thing maybe, possibly, and you're going to fall over, have an accident. It's not for cutting palm fronds. The hatchet is also not for cutting through this kind of bush that you see down here like that. You only have a short cutting surface, okay. Hatchets are great if you have standing or fallen dead trees, as opposed to just branches that are maybe about that thick. For a start, if I come along to this and I want to chop this down with this big knife, I am going to be completely stupid, and it's going to take forever to do it. Now, I probably could in an emergency, even with a big knife like this, Even I could hack away with it all day with a machete maybe, and possibly do that. But that's right. Okay, so that's not going to happen. Why is that not going to happen? Because in Australia, I just got to look on the ground and everything burns in Australia. So you've got ready tinder, little sticks already here. So you never see me batoning when I'm here. If you see me batoning, it means I'm not in Australia probably. So I've got all this timber that can burn. If I have to make feather sticks on this, you know, I can get out my knife, big or small, you know, and carve away at these things like this to my heart's content. You know, a lot of timber and stuff on the ground. So in Australia, I basically don't carry a hatchet because it's just not necessary for the environment that I'm in. Now, come over here. Just come forward a bit there, cameraman, so we stay in focus. So here's some fallen timber on the ground. It looks pretty rotten. Actually, only on the outside it looks pretty rotten because this is hardwood. And see, just underneath of that, let's come up and get, and this certainly is, but just under the surface, this is deadly. Look at this. This is deadly hardwood here. Now, again, I could hack away with a big knife like this, trying to cut that down. This big knife would be better for, you know, using for levering in here like that, to looking for grubs in this rotten material. Okay, so where you might need the finesses of a stick, small stick to carve, and a knife would be all right to do that with rather than a hatchet, is to looking around things like this. This is, you see this in here, this is fresh beetle, where beetle larvae have been inside the tree. And these things, you could eat them, and you can also use them for fish bait, capturing, you know, eels, all sorts of things, yabbies. If you could find that, that guy is in there somewhere, and you could use a knife to you know, lever this out to look for these things in here until you found it. I'm not going to disturb it anymore because I don't really need it, but this is just to show you. But this is what you've got to look for. You see it's moist in there. If I'm careful, it's been traveling along in there. It's in there somewhere because this is fresh material from, there it is, going in there, right? See the wood where it's been burrowing in there, and that's from a beetle larva. Okay, in there like that. But anyway, yeah, a little bit more finesse than an axe into the thing like that. But as I said, you know, I don't carry an axe because I'm not needing to chop up large things like this in the Australian bush. Let's move on. 3 bits of twigs and stuff to start a fire like this here, right, this kind of stuff here. I might use a hatchet. The hatchet would be your choice for this. So it really depends. What I'm saying is it depends on where you're going, on what tool that you take with you. I never randomly take knives or any kind of tools with me into the wilds. It's always a lot of planning involved, especially if I'm going on really long trips where there is going to be nobody around. Okay, let's move on. Okay, so and when I'm building fires, you see me do this everywhere. I don't like to be chopping up too much wood. You've got a log like this. I'll put the end of it into the fire. I build my fire with small material and then put the logs into the fire, and I just feed them into the fire like that. And if you're careful, of course, around the camp not to trip over the logs sticking out. It's okay if you've got a few people around the camp. If you've got lots of people, it's better to have the logs smaller. But if you've got lots of people, if you haven't got lots of people, you can just feed the logs into the fire, and it really saves on a lot of energy, not having to hack away at things. It's a bit boring after a while. Okay, so then what would I be taking out with me here in this kind of environment, in the Aussie bush or whatever? Well, I would generally, if I'm away from the coast, and I'm going to do a lot of hiking, maybe I don't have a car. Well, let's say if I have got a vehicle and it's kind of like a day hiker, I'm only away from the vehicle for a few days, you know, I may take a big knife like this. But you got to remember, if you take big knives like these things, it's extra weight in the pack, and it's really less room for taking food. Whether you strap it to yourself or you strap it to the pack, it doesn't matter. The weight is still on you, right? Unless you give it to someone else to carry, and you should carry it yourself. If I'm near the coast, and in fact we are near the coast, we're about maybe 70 kilometers away from the coast in a straight line that way, I would take something much smaller, lighter, such as this. This is a great little tactical knife, by the way. You've seen me review it in the past. That's the Dominus from Kisler Supreme there. It's OS 8. I've had it submerged in the salt water like a diving knife for the last 2 weeks. Does it look rusty? No, it's not, because it just really is pretty corrosion resistant. Okay, so it's corrosion resistant, it's very comfortable. Yeah, nice knife to use. And the scabbard on this one, some people have asked me about this knife recently. It's really safe, very strong. It's got a hard insert in there. Anyway, but okay, so my point is, you know, a smaller knife in this environment, and you could take a machete. Now, if I was, as I said, because a machete, the kind of vegetation here chops pretty easily with a machete. Not these, I'm not going to use the machete on these hardwoods here like this. This would be insane to do that. But as I said, there's no need to. If you look over here, just stand up for a second, cameraman, and we'll just have a look here. You see here, there's big sticks, you know, everywhere. This is perfect. These are hardwood sticks in Australia. They burn really well. All right, let's pretend we're not in Australia, because often I'm traveling around. I'm not going to take that machete at all with me unless I'm in the tropics outside of Australia, because there's no point. And then I don't take one of my own personal machetes. I buy one there, so I don't have to carry it in my luggage with all the hoo-ha carrying edged tools. And that, better to buy one then I have to leave it there or try and bring it back in as a souvenir or something. But I don't take my own there, I buy them. And in the tropics here, I would carry a machete and something small. Depending if I'm going to do a lot of fishing, I might take a multi-tool like that. And multi-tools are very useful if you know, have to maybe do some emergency repairs on vehicles or fishing reels or anything like that where you might need a screwdriver. A multi-tool is going to be a great option in a big knife, and I have in fact done that many times in the tropics and even on islands where there aren't any people. Just a big machete and something quite small like a multi-tool and a good sturdy folder. The bottom line is, you know, in skilled hands, even a hatchet, even a razor blade, Swiss Army knife, the broadhead from a hunting arrow, and heck, you know, like I remember once on a hunting trip, a mate of mine, he forgot his hunting knife, and he had to skin and gut and dress out his entire catch for the weekend with a broadhead off an arrow. So you can do it. He did it because he knew what he was doing. He could, you know, apply that tool. So that's the skills that you've got to learn when you're out in the wilds. To improvise if you have to, but of course it's better if you don't have to go down the improvisation path. Things are more comfortable in that way if you do. But you've got to make the right choices, and to determine whether one takes a machete or an axe, a hatchet rather. Okay, so to make the call on whether you take out, you know, a machete, right? Or whether you take out a hatchet or a big knife or whatever, it really totally depends on the environment. There is no let's set rule to say, yeah, you should go out with an axe, or rather a hatchet and a small knife, and that's all you need, a hatchet, a small knife and a handsaw, and that'll get you by. Yeah, maybe that will get you by in many things, but here I would never dream of carrying an axe with me, and I would never dream of carrying a saw with me. It's just not necessary. What I might carry with me though is maybe about 10 meters of climbing rope, because I can sling that over dead branches, even on trees, low dead branches, and pull them down. And we used to do that kind of thing all the time if you want to get a bigger branch down or something like that. And as I said, stick the ends into the fire. So there's tricks like that, and that rope can come into use if you have to use it for something else, for maybe some safety reason, to swing from, you know, one little, you know, gap in the rocks to somewhere else, whatever. But yeah, however, you know, when there's not much timber lying around on the ground readily available, and there's only big fallen trees, then sure, a hatchet and a saw is going to be the right choice. Certainly not a machete. And I know a lot of you that may be watching this that, you know, say rubbish to all that, and that's fair enough for sure. But one thing I wanted to point out about the machete is, I don't think, you know, machetes of course are really popular, or they seem to be popular on YouTube across North America. And unless you're in the tropics, I really feel they're not that great. They are a tool of using in the tropics. You won't see me using a machete when I'm outside of tropical areas or vegetation which is not well suited to cut with a machete. And it's a big knife, you know, I just don't want to carry it if I don't have to. So enough on that.